Viva press freedom. Thanks to the BBC, the world learned on November 13 about a deal between the Syrian Democratic Forces SDF, under the command of the US military, letting militants of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant ISIL, or DAESH in the Arabic initials, flee Raqqa along with their weapons and ammunition. The BBC quoted US military sources as saying that the implementation was partly taken in order to spare the lives of SDF fighters. The backbone of the SDF is the People's Protections Unit's YPG, the Syrian branch of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party PKK, which has been fighting with Turkey for more than 3 decades and designated as a terrorist group by both Turkey and the US. The footage was reacted against most strongly by 2 countries in particular, Turkey and Russia. "Have you seen what happened?" said Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim on November 14, addressing his Justice and Development Party AK party group in Parliament. Instead of clearing Raqqa of DAESH, they helped them leave with their weapons. God knows what innocent people's lives will be taken by those DAESH militants across the world in Turkey, Europe and America. The Russian Defense Ministry went a bit further, claiming that the US military has not been hitting certain ISIL targets for some time, not only in Raqqa. Until the BBC story broke, it was the US that often accused Turkey of not doing enough to stop jihadist militants using Turkish border to head in and out of Syria, while also accusing Russia of protecting pro-Iranian groups including Israel's #1 enemy Hezbollah fighting in favor of the Bashar al-Assad government in Syria. The truth is that no actor is 100% clean in the Syrian civil war. But the stains are different for everyone. Meanwhile, the various alliances have started to take a new shape ahead of upcoming Geneva talks for a political solution in Syria, which has started to emerge on the horizon. The change in Turkey's position is particularly interesting. On November 13, before departing for Sochi to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin for the 5th time in 2017, President Tayyip Erdogan was critical of both Russia and the US, due to a joint statement issued by Putin and US President Donald Trump in which they ruled out a military solution in Syria and emphasized a political solution. What are we supposed to do with the almost 1 million people killed by the regime so far? If the US and Russia are in favor of a political solution, why don't they pull their troops out of Syria? Erdogan said. Around 6 hours later, after speaking to Putin for more than 2 hours in Sochi, the Turkish president said he saw some basis for a political solution in Syria. A totally political solution would mean that the Turkish government would have to accept the al-Assad government as a counterpart in the Geneva talks. Perhaps it would also mean that Turkey would not be able to rule out the presence of al-Assad as backed by Russia and Iran in any transition phase. A couple of phrases that Erdogan used before departing for Sochi showed that he has already started to get used to the idea. While criticizing the US for not delivering its promises to Turkey in its partnership with the YPG, Erdogan said the following: Manbij has not been evacuated. The terrorist YPG remains stationed there as an invader. But the central administration, Russia and Turkey are keeping a close eye on it. The term central administration was an implicit reference to the Damascus government. Indeed, despite the fact that there is no contact, at least in public, between Ankara and Damascus, they are somehow connected via Moscow. Perhaps the deal between Turkey and Russia for now is to exclude the YPG and its political wing, the Democratic Union Party (PYD), from taking part in the Geneva talks. Moscow has recently postponed a Syrian opposition group's meeting that was due to take place in Russia, with Ankara suggesting that this postponement may have been due to its strong objections against the PYD-YPG's invitation to the meeting. But one should not jump to conclusions. The PYD situation may end up getting reversed too. After all, this is the Middle East, where history is a continuous present and rivers can change their beds easily, depending on the flow of the water. Murat Yetkin, N. Opinion.